Welcome, sadhakas. We are trying to be parallel with Vedic mathematics, science and technology, discipline processing steps. The initiation is to be in terms of the structural organization of the knowledge domain and the way it is manifesting as an existence phenomenon. In the background of this value, let us sit comfortably. Let us be face to face with Sam Ved knowledge domain. To be parallel with Sam Ved knowledge domain, which brings us face to face with the way jyoti flows from orb of the sun through rays of the sun. This knowledge domain of Sam Ved flourishes the way our solar universe is flourishing for the existence phenomenon. Ved Samhita is organized parallel to this flow format, and as such is of three phases and stages. Three phases and stages of Ved Samhita are Purve Archik, Middle Archik, and Uttar Archik. These three phases are of 6, 1, and 22 units. These three units, 6, 1, and 22, together as value 29, is parallel with the transcendental code value of formulation Brahma. Brahma is creator, the supreme. This value is linearly within the gaps of values range 30, which is parallel with the transcendental code value of formulation Chatushpeet. Let us initiate ourselves to be parallel with structural organization of Ved Samhita, as if jyoti flow from orb of the sun through rays of the sun. The jyoti flow from orb of the sun through rays of the sun is of foundation Chatushpeet, and within Chatushpeet is the reservoir of the creator's foundation. As such, let us go step by step. There are 4 Vedas: Rig Ved, Yajurved, Samved, and Atharved. Samved is the 3rd Ved. Srimad Bhagavad Gita preserves the enlightenment that Lord Krishna, Shri Bhagavan, is Samved. This enlightenment, this preservation as it is, brings us face to face with Lord Krishna as an incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is the overlord of 6 space. Surya is the 6 space body. Number value 6 is the basic value. Ganita Sutras begin with the first letter as the 6th vowel of value 6. 6 is the first perfect number, and it is the unique perfect number, as it is the only perfect number for which the sum as well as the product of the proper divisors 1, 2, 3 is equal to the number itself. With it, we can appreciate as this chapter, numbers 6, of thus these, the khands, the groups 64, is a scripture of 640 mantras. 640 is equal to 64 multiplied by 10. And there are 10 creative boundary components of the transcendental domain. Therefore, sequentially, when we shall be initiating ourselves to be parallel with this organization of the Purve Archik as a scripture of 6 chapters and of 64 dastis, khands, groups of 12, 12, 12, 12, 11 and 5 mantras. So these khands, this organization of value 64, a step ahead is going to be a setup of 114, 118, 119, 115, 119 and 55 mantras, making it summation value 640. These structural components, this structural organization is the foundational setup, and as such, sadhakas fulfilled with the intensity efforts to be parallel with this organization shall permit the mind to be parallel with the organization of the jyoti flow from orb of the sun. The jyoti flow through orb of the sun has a reach within Akash, fifth element. So this organization as such is going to be a flow from orb of the sun, the sixth element, into Akash Tattva, Avekto Avektat. And this flow is through the soul syllable Om. Therefore, our starting point is outlined as is the depiction on the computer screen. We are going to be parallel with Brahma, eternity, lively at orb of the sun, six space body, and eternity, Brahma, as jyoti flows through soul syllable, Bindu Sarovar, Ardhamatra, Tripundram, Swastik Pada, and this flow fulfills the Pushpika within our space, Akash Tatu, Avekto Ektat, the base of unmanifest. Once we are parallel with this outline of the flow format of a jyoti from orb of the sun, fulfilling our space within which is the entire existence phenomenon, then we will be having initiation to be parallel with the structural organization of Ved Samhita. Ved Samhita is a scripture of 3 phases and stages. First phase and stage as first part is the sun, from whose orb is a flow of a jyoti. Second part is soul syllable Om, as the jyoti flow initiated at orb of the sun is to be through the quadruple components of the soul syllable, which makes the second part. The third part is Avekto Ektat, the Sanatana, the base of unmanifest. Therefore, sadhakas fulfilled with intensity effort to be parallel with the structural organization of Ved Samhita shall sit comfortably and to permit the transcending mind to be parallel with this outline. One is to begin from the sun, and one is to be parallel with the flow of a jyoti from orb of the sun through soul syllable Om, and the same fulfills our Akash, Avekto Ektat. Our space, our Akash is being continuously supplied jyoti from orb of the sun. It is this eternal feature of our existence phenomenon. Akash, space, is being continuously filled with jyoti through rays of the sun. Surya Rashmi. Each ray of the sun, Surya Rashmi, as a formulation, is of transcendental code value 30, which is parallel with the transcendental code value of formulation Chatushpeet. As such, we have to be parallel with this structural organization of the jyoti flow from orb of the sun, fulfilling our space, Akash. Akash is the fifth element. First is Prithvi, second is Apa, third is Agni, fourth is Vayu, and fifth is Akash. This flow is from the sixth, that is from sun, that is from Surya. At orb of the Surya, at orb of the sixth space, is the eternity lively transiting and transforming itself as a jyoti. And the formulation jyoti is of transcendental code value 18, which is parallel with the summation value of 4 folds, 3, 4, 5, 6 of hypercube 5, the representative regular body of a 5 space, that is the space. So our space is a transcendental space, it is the fifth element. And when this space is fulfilled with the jyoti from orb of the sun, from origin of a sixth space, and sixth space itself is the origin of a 5 space. So it is from the base of the origin of our space, which is the ultimate unity state. We have to be parallel with it. Let us sit comfortably and let us be parallel with it. Once we will be parallel with it, and once we will be distinctively comprehending the organization of triple phases of sun, soul soluble, and avecto-ektat, the space from sun, from Surya to Akash is the whole format. Therefore, we have to, while we are at earth, we have to sequentially transcend from earth to Apa, to Agni, to Vayu, to have a reach at Akash. And this Akash, this space, becomes transcendental space with 6 spaces and origin, as it is being continuously fulfilled with the jyoti from Surya, transcending through soul soluble Om, as 6 space is of a creative dimensional order. 4 space is playing the role of dimension of a 6 space. Therefore, the jyoti flow from orb of the sun as Rashmi, Surya Rashmi, of transcendental code value 30, parallel with the transcendental code value of Chatushpeet, is to be recognized, is to be comprehended, is to be imbibed, And it is with this imbibing, we will be having a reach from the first part to the second part and ultimately to the third part. Let us revisit the transcendental space. Let us revisit Akash as the fifth element. Let us revisit hypercube of 5, the representative regular body of a 5 space in 4 space. Now, representative regular body of 5 space hypercube 5 is a transcendental domain enveloped within a creative boundary of 10 components. That means 4 space is playing the role of a creative boundary of the transcendental domain. And this creative boundary is playing the role of creative dimension of a 6 space Surya. It is this interlocking, it is this coordination, it is this relationship, it is this format. 4 space as creative boundary of a 5 space and 4 space as the creative dimension of a 6 space, which will help us appreciate the coordination of creative boundary value 4 with Surya 6 space body. And it is this coordination which will help us appreciate number value 64. And then it will help us appreciate the organization of Purve Archik as of 64 dastis. Dasti is of simple rendering 10. And we know the creative boundary of the transcendental domain is of 10 components. So it is because of this structural organization of creative dimension of 6 space as of 10 components manifesting as the creative boundary of 5 space that this structural organization is designated as Dasti, and there are 64 Dastis. One shall sit comfortably and to permit the mind to be parallel with this. This structural organization deserves to be comprehended well. Once we will be parallel with this structural organization, we will be blissfully initiated to be parallel with the organization format of Ved Samhita. Now, see the total mantras of chapter 1 of the Purve Archik. Purve Archik is a scripture of 6 chapters. The total number of mantras of chapter 1 are 114. Let us sit comfortably. Let us visit the outline depicted on the computer screen. There are 2 parts of depiction on the computer screen. On the left side is about chapter 1 and on the right side is about chapter 2. The chapter 1 is a scripture of 114 mantras and chapter 2 is a scripture of 118 mantras. Let us revisit. There is a jyoti flow from orb of the sun through artifices, components of soul syllable Om, and this flow is as a Divya Ganga Prabha, means there are 7 streams of flow from origin of 6 space, which manifest as 3 streams and ultimately as 1 space. And in between, at the middle, there is a transcendental joint, and this flow has a jump over it. And with it, it fulfills, it reaches the Pushpika. Though, therefore, a reach from Pushpika back to orb of the sun becomes that 4 space standing coordinated with 11 streams of flow of jyoti through Om, and so a reach from 4 to 11, making it 114. And in the next phase and stage of it is as the creators of space, a 4 space, a Chatushpeet, is enveloped within a solid boundary of 8 components. So the second phase and stage will be a transcendence from the solid boundary of 8 components of the Chatushpeet Pushpika through 11 streams Divya Ganga Prabha for a reach back at orb of the sun. And so it makes 118. One shall sit comfortably and one shall be sequentially parallel with this structural organization of the Ved Samhita, parallel with the jyoti flow from orb of the sun and fulfilling Chatushpeet, at whose origin is 5 space Akash. So jyoti flow from orb of the sun, fulfilling Chatushpeet, having a transcendental seal at its origin, is the format. And this reach in its reverse orientation is a flow back up till orb of the sun. Sadhakas are fulfilled with intensity of urge shall be parallel with these structural organization features. Now, a step ahead from chapter 2 to chapter 3, see Chatushpeet 4 space hypercube 4 as 4 space domain is enveloped within solid boundary of 8 components, and the origin seat is the 9th fixation point. There are 9 versions of hypercube 4. There are 9 geometries of 4 space. Therefore, the third phase and stage of jyoti reversal from Chatushpeet will be from the origin, a transcendental origin, 5 space as an origin, and back through 11 streams Divya Ganga format and ultimate reach back at orb of the sun. Let us sit comfortably. Let us be sequentially parallel with this structural organization. To begin with, at first phase and stage, as first chapter of a Purve Archik, the flow format is from Chatushpeet number 4 through 11 streams number 11, making it a structural organization format of value 114. The second phase and stage is that reach now is at the solid boundary of 8 components, and so the value 118. And step ahead, we are at the 9th fixation point at the origin seat, and it makes 119. Sequentially, we can proceed ahead and be parallel with the role of the 9th point, the solid at the origin seat, which is a transcendental origin. 5 space is an origin, 5 space is a solid order space. Therefore, the fourth phase and stage comes to be of transcendence from the 5 space origin. And so this transcendence format comes to be of value 115. One shall sit comfortably. One shall be sequentially parallel with this structural organization of the jyoti flow format, reaching back from Chatushpeet to orb of the sun itself. Initially, Chatushpeet gives a value 4, then it takes to solid boundary of 8 components, then to 9 points fixation parallel with the 9 version of 5.4, and at the fourth phase and stage, it takes us to the transcendental origin. These 4 sequential steps will help us appreciate the Purve Archik of Ved Samhita, which is a scripture of 6 chapters, is having for its first chapter a range of 114 mantras, then 118 mantras, and 119 mantras, and at fourth phase and stage as a scripture of 115 mantras. Now see, fourth space is a spatial order space. A 2 space is playing the role of a dimension of a 4 space. Therefore, the 5 space as a transcendental origin, when transcends out from within the 4 space, then the 4 space domain splits into a pair of 4 space domains. So here at the origin seat, there happens a phase and stage of reversal. It is reversal of orientation at the origin seat because of the spatial order of the creator space, that chapter 5 again, like chapter 3, is having an organization of 119 mantras. Chapter 3 of Purve Archik of Ved Samhita is a scripture of 119 mantras, and chapter 5 of Purve Archik Ved Samhita as well is a scripture of 119 mantras. One shall sit comfortably, one shall be parallel with it, one shall be parallel with the reversal of orientation at the transcendental origin seat of the creator's space because of the spatial order of the creator's space. We shall be coming to it again and again for its complete appreciation. But here at this initial stage, it will be blissful to have the appreciation of this structural organization feature because of the spatial order of the creator's space itself. At next phase and stage, we should now have an appreciation as to how the Dasti 1 of chapter 1 is having an organization. For it, we can just have a glimpse of the outline of the depiction that from 6 space, there is a flow within 5th element, within transcendental domain, within 5th element, within Akash space, and it is a domain enveloped within the creative boundary of 10 components. So this flow line, as it is settling format for the first Dasti of first chapter. And like that, we will be having a sequential depiction that because of the reversal of orientation at the transcendental origin of the creator space of a spatial boundary, in the opposite orientation, thus the two mantras stand settled. Let us have a pause. Let us sit comfortably. Let us be sequentially parallel with it. Today, at this initial stage of the first exposure to this structural organization, we are just having the initial glimpse of this organization. We will be having a concentrative glimpse of the same by approaching it mantra-wise. But today, at this initial stage of this initial glimpse, it will be blissful to appreciate to the extent one can have a transcendental glimpse of it, and the extent one can imbibe these transcendental features of the structural organization of the Ved Samhita. These features are being continuing, and then 6 space as base of the transcendental origin of the 4th space with the cyclic organization will help us appreciate the way these structures are sequentially unfolding and how these depictions are to be approached, how these depictions will ultimately help us to be parallel with the Chatushpeet foundational organization for jyoti flow through Surya Rashmi. And it is here where many features will simultaneously come into play, and for its appreciation, naturally, we have to have simultaneous comprehension of the structural progression which stands reached at first and second dasti. I am not taking for granted that with this initial exposure, we are parallel with the all flow streams progression, which is playing their roles up till Dasti 1 and Dasti 2 of chapter 1, but still to give the initial glimpse, I am taking through the 4th, 5th, 6th, and like that up till the 12th. Dastis of the chapter 1. Naturally, it is going to be a very, very slow process for the mind of the existing linear, spatial, and solid order mental states to have dissolution of the same and to have transcendence therefrom, to be parallel with the structural organization of the Ved Samhita of values of a jyoti flow from orb of the sun, from the origin of the sun, from four-space creative dimension of a transcendental origin, but still this mental state's dissolution in itself is the process for which as well we have to permit the transcending mind to continuously remain in prolonged sittings of trance, and one will certainly have the dissolution of the linear, spatial, and solid order mental states to be parallel with the creative dimensional order of six space. With this, we can say that to have a reach for the manifestation as manifested text of Ved Samhita, of its first mantra to the last mantra. The text is as it is on the computer screen for the first two mantras. And this text is designated as mantras, and each mantra is having its rishi, its devata, its chand and swara. And this is designated as Agniyam Parv. So the first chapter of the Agniyam Parv, for its first khand, first dasti, as its first mantra, is initiation, respectful invitation for the fire god to be present during the yajna, being initiated as and for the jyoti flow from orb of the sun. Thank you very much.